Hey guys, Bond here. If you're interested in building your own LoRa, you should take a look at this video that I've put together. So I have my own process. This is what I did for building my very first LoRa. I've gone back and I've sort of recreated that, and I've created a 2-hour video. This thing is meticulous, it's step by step, and it really focuses on that very first part of building a LoRa, which is preparing your data set. What do you do if you have one image and you need to create different poses and get different outfits and things like that? I'll cover all that in this video. So if you're interested in building a LoRa and you don't know where to start, you should take a look at this video, hop in, and please, if you like it, be sure to like and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome back. Based on the last video I did, I had a lot of people reach out and ask me how I trained my LoRa, or if I would show them how to train a LoRa. And so, sort of behind the scenes, I've been working on a video for you guys for how to train a LoRa. And it's so funny, things are changing so fast that between the time I started this video and today, there's so many different ways that you can train a LoRa now. It made it very difficult for me to decide, do I focus on the newest way, understanding that things are still changing, or should I take the time and sort of show you how I did my very first LoRa, just so you guys can see all of the steps, which are absolutely overkill. And I chose to go that path. I chose to go ahead and make a LoRa with a variation of 100 images that I will show you why and how throughout this video. And even though today you really don't need 100 images to train a LoRa, the process to get there will show you guys some really cool stuff for how we do some batch processing, how we swap out different poses and different outfits with different backgrounds and things like that. So even though a short way into this, once we maybe get our first 20 images or so, you technically could use that to train a LoRa. I'm going to go ahead and create this full-length video. Maybe you guys can pick up some cool stuff along the way. That being said, this is going to be a 3-part video. It's going to have the first part, which we're going to talk about today, which I'm calling 3.1. And what that is we're going to get what I call our anchor images set. So the first 20, kind of core images to train a LoRa in your data set. The next episode, 3.2, will be how we leverage significant batch processing to create many, many images so we can go through and pick the absolute best ones. And, that'll be 3.2, and that'll complete our data set. And then the last 3.3 will be actually training this LoRa in using an AI toolkit that's created by Ostrus. And so let's just go ahead and jump in. I was thinking about how to start this video, and I thought what would make sense is first just to help everybody understand what is a LoRa. So guys, what is a LoRa and why do we use LoRas? I found this picture here by CoreLogix online. And this is what they try to describe or explain to people what a LoRa is. And although we can read this and we can interpret this and understand the logic behind it, I don't think that this really does a very good job of describing what a LoRa is. I think that this may help us understand some of the mathematics behind a LoRa, or the science behind a LoRa. But what it doesn't do is help us understand why or how we would use it. So I'll tell you what, I have built this image, and this is a lot easier to kind of understand how a LoRa helps us and what it is. Ostrus, his name's Jarrett Burkett. He's the guy that created AI Toolkit. He's the one who described a LoRa as a tugboat, and I love that analogy, and I wanted to use that today with you guys. When you look at a big model like Z-Image, think about this ship back here as being the big giant model, right? The diffusion model that we've grown to learn about and love and use in our day-to-day life. Z-Image is relatively new. It's very powerful and robust and lightweight.
ZImage is a diffusion model, and it has all this information in it. It's been trained to do certain things. We ask ZImage to take text and to make images for us. And so if we give it an example of, give us a brunette woman, ZImage Turbo has an idea of what a brunette woman looks like, and you can give it a million prompts of a brunette woman, but they're all going to look relatively similar because it's been trained that that's what a brunette woman looks like. But what if we want to use ZImage to help us create an image of a different looking brunette woman? Well, that's where LoRA comes into play. So we would apply this LoRA, this low rank adaptation, right? Which is kind of like a mini model, and think about it like a tugboat. It pulls ZImage in the direction that we want it to go to help create the image that we want ZImage to create for us. So what we're saying is, okay, ZImage Turbo, use all the amazing stuff that you've been trained and built to do. But as you're creating this image, can we get you to just help us create it kind of in this vision that we have, right? This, by using this LoRA that we've created. That's really what a LoRA does, is it kind of pulls the big model in the direction that we want to give us the output that we want. You can create a LoRA for a lot of things. You can create LoRAs for feet. You can create LoRAs for, different faces and characters. You can create LoRAs for all kinds of stuff. You can create LoRAs for motion and just so many different things, right? Based on the model. What we're talking about today, we're talking about character LoRAs, right? We want to create a LoRA for a person. And every time we use that LoRA against a particular model, we want that model to give us the person that we're asking for, right? So we're going to use that LoRA to help drive that. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to create a data set that helps us build or train the LoRA that we want. And later in different episodes, we will use that data set to create a variety of LoRAs, probably ZImage Turbo, Quinn image. We will likely use WAN 2.2 as well, right? Because we're going to want to do some cool video stuff. And so we need a data set, right, of images that look like our character to be able to train that LoRA. And that's what we're going to do today. The other thing about LoRA is, just while we're on this topic, is not only does it help us make sure that our character is consistent, but it also makes the generation of images for our character just easier. If you have a LoRA that is a text-to-image LoRA, and you have a name, the LoRA that we're going to create today, we're going to name her Allison, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. It's a dear friend of mine. But we're going to create a data set that will help us use a text-to-image like ZImage Turbo, to where we can put in a prompt that says, I want to see Allison in a sundress on a swing in a park. And just with that text, it's going to give us our character, versus the other option, which is to get an image of your character and then try to use some image to video or image to image to try to essentially use that reference image to create whatever the images that you want. It's much harder. And it definitely, you lose some fidelity and you lose some consistency when you do that. So, sorry for the long-winded explanation here, but that's really what a LoRA is. So let's talk a little bit about the data set that we need. When we create a LoRA, I typically have sort of a 2 LoRA approach. I create sort of these first 3 sets of images here. So a reference image, a base image, and my anchor images. And I try to get to roughly about 20 total images. That's really my goal. And that's going to be our goal today, is to get to 20 total images. And so what does that mean? Well, we're going to create one reference image. That's our starting point. This is the person, or we're actually going to create an AI character that we want to replicate. Okay. And we'll use Pinterest to help us get some inspiration. And then we'll talk about how we will use an image of a particular character that's out there to generate a prompt that will then help us create our AI character, right? So we don't copy people or other AI characters. We create our own, but sometimes we can use a prompt generator to look at an image to help us derive a prompt, so we don't have to type the prompt from scratch. That's really it. Then we take this single image, and then we create base images from it. And so we try to get a head and shoulders image here. Sometimes we start with waist up. It really just depends on kind of what our good images here. And then we take this one plus this and we try to create what we'll call 4 base images. So a close-up face, head and shoulders, waist up, and full body. Okay, and so that's going to be our reference image plus our base images. And then from that, we want to make 20 anchor images, right? And they can include these 4. And so what we do here is we try to alternate the backgrounds a little bit. We try to alternate the lighting a little bit. And we try to alternate outfits a little bit too. If we can get a couple different outfits, that's where we want to be. And what I like to do is I like to take these 20, right? So these 20 images here, I like to create a LoRA with those. And then if I need to, I can use that LoRA to help me build out a more robust data set so I can create kind of a full body LoRA for my character. So here, this is kind of like a mini LoRA. We could use this data set of 20 to create a mini LoRA. And then we could use all of these other images that we create later. If you take a look, we're looking at like 30 head and shoulders images, 30 waist up with 4 or 5 different outfits and a few different backgrounds and, kind of across a variety of different things. We want some natural backgrounds and we want like maybe a studio background. And then maybe we throw in like a beach or a park or something like that, but not complicated. So the point is that we need all of these images. And we want to be organized about our approach with these images so we can create that data set that will help us have the best shot at training our character. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to, like I said, we're just going to work on these 20. And then in future episodes, we'll work on expanding our data set. And it's possible that as part of creating a LoRA, that we also can include some uncensored images if needed. It really kind of depends on your use case. I'm not going to go through that in today's video, but I do want you to understand that any of the approaches or tools or techniques that we use today, or any of the processes that we use today, can be used for censored and uncensored images alike. They can be used for any image. So just kind of keep that in mind. Again, that's kind of up to you to do on your side, but just know that it can be done. For those of you who are members of our AI Hub School, we will be doing a little bit more advanced tutorials like this, but we will kind of sort of cross planes over into the uncensored area. So that's all I'll say for that. But just know if you're interested in that, come and join our Discord and we talk a lot more about it over there. I can't talk about it on YouTube. Okay, so now just a rough idea of the types of images that we need to create for our data set. So today we're going to focus on these up here. And for a future episode, we're going to focus on really building out that data set. Now, I'm only going to touch on this just briefly, okay? I will be creating a video that teaches you how to create 10,000 images with the click of one button. That is using multiple prompts, multiple poses, multiple outfits, multiple backgrounds, okay? And or multiple reference images. This is called the Cartesian product, and it's a concept. And what it means is if you take every possible combination of multiple sets, that gets you a very large output. So 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000, times 10 is 10,000. And so we can take 10 prompts. Let's use these prompts. Let's say that these are different characters, okay? Or we can just say, different facial expressions, something like that. But it's a variety of whatever your prompt needs to be. We'll take those and we'll cross those against 10 different poses. If you do all these prompts on all these poses, that's 100 unique images. Now let's take all of those and do those across 10 different outfits. Now you're at 1,000 unique images. And if we do all that against 10 different backgrounds, now you're at 10,000 unique images. Fun fact, I've actually already created this video. We're now in episode 3.1. This is going to be episode 3.3, and I'm going to launch these at the same time. So you guys will be able to go out there and take a look and see this Cartesian product. It is extremely powerful. It is a way to sort of queue up a gigantic image run, and you don't have to do 10,000. You could do 500 or 200 or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But you can queue all this up, and then you can walk away and let the machine do the work for you and come back and then kind of sort through the images. And there'll be some bad ones. You can throw them out. There'll be some great ones, and those are the ones that you keep. But you can use those to expand your data set. So over here, this is just, again, a visual kind of what we talked about. We've got our core images. We've got different facial expressions. You got different poses and different outfits and different backgrounds. And if you were to combine all these together, it could give you 12,000 combinations. And for our data set, like we said, we really only need 100, right? We're shooting for 100 in this full big data set down here. So more to come. It's a little bit advanced, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but I did just want to kind of give you guys a preview of what this series is going to show you how to do. Today, we're going to create our core images in episode 3.2. We're going to train those core images on AI Toolkit, and I've already recorded that video as well, and we're going to go through, and you guys will be able to see how we use AI Toolkit and train that LoRA, or those LoRAs. We're going to do 3 of them. And then after that, of course, we'll use the Cartesian product. So today, what we need to do is we need to select our reference image. We need to customize this reference image, and we need to build her story. Now, I have already built her story, but I'm going to save that for the end. And so what we've got now, just as this is kind of a high-level overview of a SFW approach that we're going to take, we have... we're going to get a reference image, and I say one face. It really depends on what we get. It may not be a face. It may be waist up, and we actually zoom in to get that face. You'll see what I'm talking about in a few minutes, but we're going to get one reference image. So let's actually change this, not to say face. Let's just say reference image. We're going to get one reference image. We're going to use that to create our base images, so those 4 base images that I talked about, and then we're going to use that to create our I have 18 images here, and notice I kind of have this broken down, right? Like 6 to 9 head and shoulders, 6 to 9 waist up, 6 to 9 full body, total 18 to 27, and we're going to narrow that down to 20. Guys, don't read this word for word. That's why I put ranges here. What the whole point of this, if you just kind of forget this math for a second and all the stuff that we have going on here, I'm going to break it down to you like this. What we really want are 20 images that are a variety of poses, backgrounds, 2 backgrounds, and 2 outfits that's a well-rounded data set that we can use to train a LoRA. Okay. And as we get in there and we start generating these images, I'll show you what I'm talking about when I mean well-rounded. Right now, you're kind of looking at this table and you're probably like, Bond, what the heck are you talking about? It will be very obvious to you in just a few minutes, I promise. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to create a data set of 20, and that's what we're going to shoot for. So without further ado, we need to go and take a look over at Pinterest and kind of get an idea for what I will call inspiration to generate a prompt for our reference image. So I go to Pinterest and maybe I type in, beautiful brunette or whatever it is. But let's say that, I have an idea for a character that I want, and I go into Pinterest and I search. And as you can see, there's hundreds and hundreds of, very great sort of reference images that you could choose from here, right? And so I've decided that I'm going to use this one right here. And so then once you get that reference image, we will create our own version of that reference image. We're not going to copy it, right? We can't do that. 1, this is from a different website. And 2, we just wouldn't want to do that. If you're creating a character for, TikTok or Instagram or whatever, you certainly wouldn't want somebody to see, the same character out there under 2 different accounts. And then we're going to build the story. And so this is an example of how I build the story. This is important for me.
as I create my influencer and I want to, I'm going to post for potentially years about her, it helps to have her grounded with some backstory. What's her full name? When's her birthday? How old is she? Where was she born? What's her, her current country of residence and her nationality? What languages does she speak? Think about all of the different things for just a regular human that you would want to know. The same goes for our influencer. And so what I've done, and I'll give this to you guys, I'm not exactly sure how yet. I'll either stick it in the description or I'll create a document and post it out there for you. But this is a ChatGPT prompt. And so what I do is, you can see here, I've already named, this is from my old influencer. What you do is you just take this prompt and you paste this into ChatGPT, and then you upload your sort of your final reference image, and ChatGPT will create all of this for you. And that way, and then of course, obviously you can tweak it, it's yours. But then that way, going forward, as you decide to post, if you want to reference today's my birthday, or, here you see schooling, right? Let's say, she's from, I don't know, some Notre Dame University, and they just won a football game. Notre Dame won their football game, right? And you can, put her in the Notre Dame outfit. So there's lots of different things that you can do once you complete the story for someone. You can also use this to help develop their niche as well. For those of you who watched the first version of this video, you'll notice that this workflow looks a little different. If you didn't see that video and you're watching this for the first time, welcome. Originally, I had this image to text section over here. It was a little more rudimentary. And then over here to the right, we had ZImage Turbo, and then we had an upscaler. In hindsight, as we are working through this process, really what it seems is more important to the community was options for reference images versus a built-in upscaler. So what I've done is, when this originally came out, all we had was ZImage Turbo. FluxCline had not come out. Quinn 2512 had not come out. I originally created this video back in, I think, December maybe of 2025. But since then, a couple of really good models have come out. We've got FluxCline, we've got Quinn 2512, and we'll continue to grow this out, as we get some interesting new models. But because ZImage Turbo and FluxCline have such a light footprint, they've created some models that don't require a tremendous amount of VRAM. These are really good if you happen to have, maybe a 5070 Ti or a 5080, something like that. This is a 5090 that I'm on. So it can handle a 2512 as well. You see I put a high VRAM note here. I think this model alone is maybe 20 gigabytes. And so when that loads into VRAM, it just kind of, it's a hog. But that's really why you see kind of these three sections over here. So I'll walk you through from start to finish what's going to happen. And by the way, for all the models here, I did include those over here, so make it easy for you guys to go and find those. So here's what's going to happen. We looked over at Pinterest. We looked at some different images, and this is going to be the young lady that we're going to use. We can go ahead and right click on this, and we'll save that image. We can see that we've got her already saved over there. And so what we're going to do, we're going to load her in here. So we'll grab that image. And we're going to run this through QuinnVL Advanced. And what QuinnVL Advanced is going to do is it's going to analyze this image, and it's going to take this text, this sort of pre-prompt, if you will. You can notice we say, you're a professional photographer and visual reconstruction expert. We're telling Quinn, kind of like you would tell ChatGPT if you were to create a custom GPT, or if you were to prompt an AI to act a particular way. That's really what we're doing here. We're saying, hey, we want you to analyze this image, and we want you to give us an output. Remember, we would never copy something that we found online, right? This is somebody else's image that they've created. This is clearly an AI image, but this is somebody else's image that they've created. We would never copy that. But what we want to do is we want to take a look at what's going on in this photo, and instead of just manually writing a prompt, Quinn will help us write a prompt based on what's going on. So it's going to look and say, okay, well, we've got flowers in the background and we have a young lady and she's got brown hair and things like that. And so we're going to just use this to get Quinn to help us write a prompt. And you can see over here in a previous test, I have a prompt here that, 19-year-old woman stands in garden path, so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through all of the settings. I will tell you a great lesson learned from the last time I created this video is that a lot of people had issues with these settings. And so what I did is I brought all of those settings in here for you. So if in the event that you load this up and for some reason these settings don't apply, you have both the settings and you have both the prompt. There are sort of three constants that we want to set up for this workflow. The width, the height, and the file path. Because we're using three different models, but we want to make sure that the width and where we save these images are the same each time, we're going to set those as constants. So we're okay with this width and height here, 1104 and 1472. You could do 720p or whatever image size that you want. But the point is that you set it here once, and if you run all three of these, you'll see here we call over the get width and height. So they'll all have the same output size, which is important. You don't want to have to go over here and change those every single time, especially as we grow this out. Let's say that we have 5 or 6 of these different models. We wouldn't want to have to change those every single time. So we change it in one place. And then also the file path, we want all of our images to go to the same place. So I have a folder and this is relative to the output folder in Comfy UI. So I have a folder, LoRA training, YouTube, episode 3.1, redo, and then reference images. And we're going to set this on the reference image. I don't know why, but I really want the colors to be the same. So here's what we're going to do. Just to test this out, I'm going to only run ZImage Turbo because it's fast. And let's get an image. And then we'll talk about what happens after we get that image. I've hit run, and you can see we've got a green box around Quinn VL. Quinn VL is reading this image, and it's going to give us a prompt over here. Now, there are several different models that you can select here from within Quinn VL, and it will download this model the very first time. I already have this model downloaded, so it's going to be faster for me. Some of these are very large. This 4B Instruct is kind of my go-to model. I think it's somewhere around 8 gigabytes. Maybe, I don't remember exactly. It could be a little bit smaller. But if you were to get down here into these 32, these are massive. So don't select any of these. If you happen to have very small VRAM or a small graphics card, maybe select 2B or 2B FP8 rather, sorry. But so it's in the process of reading this and it's about to give us the output. We can just take a peek over here and see it's loading the checkpoint shard. So these are the this is a Quinn VL, and it just did that, and it output the text over here, so it looks kind of similar as it did before. And now we've already moved over here to ZImage Turbo, and we're going to have an image here in just a minute. So here's the image that ZImage Turbo created for us. Now remember, they don't look exactly the same, and they're not supposed to. This is what, when ZImage Turbo was trained, it was trained on billions of parameters, lots of images. And this is, you might recognize this face. It's a relatively common face that you get with ZImage Turbo. But this is the output that we got. And so remember, ZImage Turbo isn't recreating this person. It's just getting a prompt and then creating an image based on attributes from this image. So now we have this one, and actually we could use this. This is a really good picture. She's, brown hair, brown eyes, just exactly like what we asked for. What I want to do is I want to have some options. I very well may use this one for the rest of our training, but let's see what we get with Flux Klein. So we'll turn that on, and let's see what we get with Quinn. Now there's a trick that some of you may know, some of you may not know, but if you come up to run and you click on run instant, when I hit run, you see how it has kind of this, double forward. When I hit run, this will continue to run until I tell it to stop. And so I'm going to hit run. We're going to let this thing run in the background. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because with all of these different models, this will take a few minutes. But I'm going to let it run so you can see it will create several images for us. We'll come back. We'll decide which one that we want, and then we'll kind of move on to stage 2. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run now, and we'll let this go, and then let's see what we got, and then we'll be back here in just a second. While this is running, maybe this is a good opportunity for me to talk with you guys about a community that we're building both in Discord and on School called AI Hub. AI Hub is something that me and my business partner Bjorn put together, which is a community for those of you who want to create content like this, to come and learn and collaborate. We create workflows that we post to the community. We help the community members troubleshoot Comfy UI, setup challenges, or I've built custom nodes that I, push out to members of our community to help them out. And so if you guys are interested in learning more about this and want to become a member of our community, please join our Discord. It's free. And then once you get into Discord, if you start to, see some of the folks talk a little bit about the classes that we create, the Comfy UI tutorials that we build inside of our school, we would love to have you join as a member. So, just wanted to mention that to you guys. And again, there'll be links in the description, but we would love to have you. Now that we have run through several iterations of generating these images across different diffusion models, let's take a look and see what we have here. So this is clearly our Z-Image Turbo face. I don't know if you guys have picked up, just it may have gone too fast, but if you pay attention, a lot of those girls, they just look the same. And we're generating a new prompt every single time. So I left this on randomize, meaning every single one of those, every single time it ran all 3 of these, it actually reread this image and generated a new prompt. It helps to get a better variety. If we wanted to keep the prompt the same, we would have just changed this to fixed like that. But you can tell the difference in what Z-Image thinks this girl looks like versus Flux, thinks that, or the woman rather, looks like over here and down here. So it's kind of interesting. So I'll tell you what, there's one thing I wanted to show you guys. As this was running, I realized that I had an error in my folder. So I just want to show you guys this. I always like to call out my own mistakes. Hopefully you guys can learn from them, and that way, you don't make the same mistake I did. But the problem is I had spaces in this file path, and Python doesn't like spaces. If you take a look here, you can see, one, I included the full path, so from my E drive instead of just the relative path from output, which would work. But if you specify the full path, you reduce the possibility of a different error happening. And 2, you'll notice in here there are absolutely no spaces. And as a result, my images started saving. But I ran this a little while ago. I cut it out for you guys, but and I noticed that my images weren't saving. So I went back and I fixed that. And I think I showed you, but this sort of sets the file path here. And then over here, we get that file path. So similar to what we talked about with the width and the height, where you were to put the file path and name here, and you could do these individually. You could put, Quinn here, and if it was important to you, you could put Z-Image Turbo here. We're just going to pick the best image, so it doesn't really matter to us what model it was. So I just use one generic file path, and that way, if I ever want to update the entire path for all the images, I can just come over here and do it once, as opposed to coming over here and doing it here and here and here. I have another workflow for a video I'm going to post later for how I create Instagram images, and it creates dozens of images. And so having one place to change that is really cool. Okay, let's take a look at the images that we have here in our generation folder. So here is the folder where they're going inside reference images, and here they all are. Let's make this bigger. And really our goal here is going to be to pick out the best image. So we'll just kind of go through these and take a look. This is a matter of personal preference. There's nothing that says, you know, any one of these images is better than the next. It really is just the person that you want it to, you know, to create as your model. And so, you know, as I'm just trying to take a peek here, I'm just trying to see which one I think I'm going to like the most. I like when we kind of have this sort of mid-thigh up, you know, when it's a little bit closer like this, you have some detail. When it's farther back, you know, you don't get as much detail. I can actually tell that this looks, I think this is Quinn because it's a little AI, not too bad. But I kind of like these that are a bit closer up. This is a really good picture. We may use this. That's 003. That one's good. I did add in the prompt that she should be wearing jeans. Some of these it didn't get right. Oh, this is another really good one too. So we just need to go through here and decide which one that we want. I think I like 003. So let's, was it reference image 003? Where'd you go? There we go. I think I really like this one. I think this is going to be the one that we're going to go with. So we will adopt this image as our model. And now that we've picked out our reference image, it is time to move into phase 2. Before we can move on to the section where we will create our images from poses and different things like that, we need to upscale the reference image that we just created. You know, it's going to be the foundation of everything that we do from now forward. This is it. This one reference image that we just created is critical. And so we just want to make sure that we jump into our next section where we use WAN to do what we're going to do. And we'll get to that in a few minutes with the best, you know, most highest resolution image possible that we can always refer back to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Seed VR. This is another upgrade that I've made from the previous video. The last time I did this video, I used a local version of Topaz, and I love Topaz. Topaz is amazing. I received a lot of feedback from some folks in the community that were saying, Bond, you know, give me an upscaler. We don't have Topaz, or Topaz is very expensive, right? And so help us find a way to upgrade it to where we don't have to buy Topaz. And so I found Seed VR. Seed VR is amazing. Seed VR is created by ByteDance, a name that you guys may recognize. Highly recommend you guys come over here and take a look at it. It uses Apache license, so everybody can use it, and it can upscale images and video. So it's really a fantastic upscaler. I have this one set to 3040 over here, which is you know, very close to 4K. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to grab the image of the young woman that we just created, and I've named her Allison. I happen to have a dear friend, one of my best friends actually, and somebody who has kind of helped me get this far on my journey. And so I want to sort of dedicate this video to her a little bit. So we're going to name her Allison, and Seed VR is already set up. The first time you run it, if you don't have the model here, it'll download it for you. So it's a very simple workflow. And I am going to obviously give this to you guys as well. Let's just change the output file. We'll just call this Allison Upscale. And let's say 4K. We may do a couple versions of this. So we'll hit OK. Model is going to run, or the image is going to run through the model. We grab the you can't see it, but we grab the size to make sure that we pass the right size through to the resize node. And we just want to make sure that we upscale it, and the model and the image is the same proportions as it is here. We'll get an output here, and then we'll be able to see a comparison here. Let's run this. And
I have chosen a relatively large model here. You can choose smaller ones. Just know that, you know, again, based on your VRAM, you may want to be careful which one of these you choose. But I've kind of picked the biggest one here because I'm on a 5090. So we'll go ahead and run it. Let's let it run through, and it'll take just a minute, and we'll see what we get. Okay, and this one finished, and I actually just noticed this is a typo. This should be 3840 to get to 4K. It's 3040, but I bet it looks pretty good. Let's see. So we can see here, if you look over, you know, on the right side, that's the original. And as we take this across, look at that detail, guys. That is absolutely wonderful. Super impressed with this upscaler. You know, we've got this fine detail in the hair. The background was already, you know, bokeh and blurry. But this is just so great. Very impressed with this. We've got, you know, skin details up here. Look how close I'm zoomed in and how good it is. Just, wow. Okay, so I think that this is definitely doable. Even look at the denim, you know, just this upscaler alone ought to help you guys out a lot. If you, I mean, you can use this for anything. And I will be doing some videos later that show how to bring in a batch. Let's say that you've got 100 images that you want to upscale, and you can, you know, queue them up and you can run them through, and it'll output, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens of images. But very happy with this. So, okay, we have it's really not 4K. It's really like 3K is what we upscaled it to, because I made this typo up here. But I also want to do a 2K version. In the event that we try to use this super amazing upscaled version and it slows things down. Anytime your input image is really big, that's a lot of information that whatever model you're using has to process as you're, you know, as you're creating whatever it is you're creating. If that very first image is massive, it slows everything down. And so sometimes it helps, because you don't always need a giant, you know, 4K or 3K image, whatever we have. Sometimes it helps just to have a variety, like a small, medium, large image. And so let's just do a 2K here real quick, just to, you know, make sure that we've got a couple options to choose from. And 2K is 2048. So I'll set that. And that last one, by the way, let's see, took 156 seconds. So 2.5 minutes it took to do that one upscale. Let's see how long it takes on 2K. Now the model's already loaded, so it's oh, actually, you know what? The model's not loaded. So it should be a good comparison. Let's just take a peek here. We'll let it run and we'll see how long it takes, and we'll also be able to see what a 2K upscale looks like versus the, you know, this one that we have here. Well, and that was considerably faster. So that happened in 23 seconds. Let's see what we've got. So it's not as good, but it's better, right? You can see here that we've got more detail than we did in the original image, but obviously it's not as good as the, you know, 4K, whatever the other version is. So it's okay. This is certainly usable by all means. Fantastic. So now that we have our upscaled reference image, we're going to go over to one, and we're going to create our base images that we talked about in the beginning to make sure that we've got those sort of set in stone. And then from there, we're going to create our anchor images. And then those, you know, those anchor images will be kind of the foundation for everything else that we are going to build. So stand by, I'll get that ready for us and we'll jump right in. In this section, we are going to talk about how to generate our base images, and then we'll move into the full anchor image set. So as I do before I record any section of a video, I did some testing. So there's a couple things that I want to point out to you guys. The first one is I ran a few tests with our reference image, Allison. And you'll notice here I have loaded the original size. When I ran the 2K and the 4-ish K
instance of this image, it took forever. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to generate our images here, and then we're going to go back over to the upscaler and we'll upscale the images after we're finished. I had told you guys earlier that for the upscaler, I was going to add a batch process. And so I've added that. So now what we'll do is we'll go over to WAN, we'll create all of our images, the final ones that we want to use for our anchors, our bases and our anchors. And then we'll come over here and we'll load that and we'll just run them all through. They'll all get upgraded or upscaled rather in Seed VR. And then we will be finished with this version of the video, or this episode rather. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to walk you guys through this entire workflow. Again, if you've seen this video before, you're probably familiar with this workflow. If you haven't, there may be some new concepts in here. So we're just going to go from left to right. We're going to go through a series of prompts in this part of the episode where we take our reference image and we're going to try to get all of our base images squared away, right? So waist up, kind of a portrait style, a close-up face, and a full body. We already have our waist up. This works for waist up. But we want to do that, with this background, and we want to do it with another background. Remember, we're going to shoot for a couple backgrounds. So we've got this one here, and then we're going to shoot for kind of a neutral or a light gray background. And so we'll actually use WAN to help us get to that background. So the reason I'm calling that out is that over here on the left, I've given you all the prompts. So here is a zoom in prompt that starts with whatever your reference image is and zooms in. And from here, this will help us get kind of that, portrait shot and then the close-up face. And then we're going to do a zoom out prompt, and that's going to help us get, kind of a full body view, right? So again, we're just trying to get 4 good solid images, base images that then we can use to build out pretty much anything that we want, okay? So we've got the zoom in and the zoom out. And then what we want to do is we want to, for our anchor images, we want to get some different angles. Guys, I want to be really clear. There are so many ways now to do this in Comfy. Remember, I'm not saying that this is the absolute best way to create a data set for a LoRA. This is one way to create a data set for a LoRA. And there's a reason why I like WAN, and I'll talk about that as we get into it. But there are lots of different creators out there that create kind of a one-click, data set creator. Some of them work well, some of them don't. I've created one myself that I'm kind of in the middle of. But this process is really meant to do a couple things. One, it leverages WAN, and WAN does a really good job of, sort of keeping a lot of the aspects of an image consistent throughout, as you mess with it, if you prompt it correctly. 2, there's some neat things that you can do with WAN where you can kind of capture images along the way, and we'll get into that here in a second. And 3, once you guys create your LoRA, you're going to want to know how to create videos, and you can use the same techniques or similar techniques in this when you create your videos as we do in this process right here. So although we're using this to create our anchor images, our base and our anchor images, this is going to give you some tools and tips and tricks that you guys can use as you develop your LoRA and as you start creating, whatever content that you're going to want to create, where you use that LoRA. And you can see here, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we have LoRA loaders here. If we had LoRAs, we could use those LoRAs in here. For this video, we don't need them. But the reason I'm telling you that is because we're going to have a prompt where our Allison turns right. We're going to have a prompt where she turns left. We're going to have a prompt where she turns around. And the point is that we want to capture different angles of her so we can use that to help train our LoRA. You wouldn't train your LoRA where every single one of your characters is just facing forward, right? You want to get side angles and things like that. So that's what the prompts are for. And I've included all of these prompts over here. These are just samples. You can copy and paste them, but depending on what your character looks like in the image, you're definitely going to want to tweak these prompts so it makes a little bit more sense for your scenario. And then of course we have a gray background prompt, which is what we're going to do next. So you'll remember from when we were kind of looking at the table of different images that we wanted to collect or create, we want to create two different backgrounds. So we've got a background here with these pretty flowers, and we want to do a nice neutral background, a gray background. So this is going to be the first prompt that we create, or the first prompt that we use rather, to create our images. And I have it pasted here, but I'll go ahead and just paste it here so you guys can see. Okay, so that's our prompt. We'll get there in a second. I want to walk you through this workflow so you understand what is going on with each of these nodes. And then I know that I don't have it on here yet, but I will add the links to all the models over here as well when I post this out there for you guys, like I did with, with the other workflows, right? Like this. Okay, so here's how this works. The first thing that happens is when you run this, all these things have to load. So we've got different models here. We have our clip, which pulls in the text encoder, and then we have our VAE. And, this isn't a video where we sort of explain what each of these things are, but at a high level, these are the main models. So this is your WAN 2.2 image to video high noise and WAN 2.2 image to video low noise. And what these models do is they do kind of the heavy lifting. They do the noise and the denoise to give you the resulting image or video that you're looking for. The clip, right? So we're calling in a text encoder here. What this does is think about this as a translator that pretty much says, hey, Juan, I understand that you don't speak text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into, we'll just say numbers. I'm going to change this text into numbers that you can understand. So then you can do your job. That's really what the text encoder does, right? This load clip section. And then down here, your VAE or your VAE, what this does is this transitions the image from what we call latent space, which is noise, to pixel space, which is something that we can see as humans, right? So latent space kind of looks like snow on a TV, and an image, pixels look like pixels, right? This is in pixel space. And so without going into a tremendous amount of detail, when you use a diffusion model, images go from latent space to pixel space, right? And it's a lot more detailed than that, but for the purposes of this, that's all we really need to talk about. Why are there two different models? WAN 2.2 has a high pass and a low pass, and it was designed that way for a reason. One, it's a big model, and so they needed to split it into two, so you weren't running this big gigantic model all at once. Two, these actually do two different things. So the high noise pass focuses on motion, animation, things like that. And the low noise pass focuses on finer details and fidelity and things like that. So what happens is that this is going to run. It's going to go through the high noise pass first. You'll notice here that it hits this 4 steps LoRA. That is a LoRA that's brought in to help speed it up. We'll lose a little bit of quality by using it, but not enough to where it's going to make a difference for the purposes of this video. But it will speed it up significantly, and it means that the number of steps that we use, in this diffusion process is 4 versus something like 20 or 25 or even higher. So the high pass is going to go through. It would pick up a LoRA here if we had a LoRA, but we're not going to use one. The clip will get involved. It's going to go and it's going to do its steps here. And this is the high pass K sampler. We can actually just do this for you guys just for visual. We'll do high and low. It's going to go through the high pass, and then it's going to circle back and go back through the low pass. It's going to do the same thing, same LoRA, except this is the, should say low somewhere. Yeah, this is the low LoRA. These 4 steps of LoRAs for one, you have to have a high and a low, just like you do the main diffusion model. And it's going to go through the low process, and then it's going to give us our video. And so the video will be output here. And our prompt in this example is really just fading this background to gray. So we're going to start off with the flowers, and it's going to end up in a
gray background, let's see here, in the first half to 1 second, change it to a pure solid neutral gray color uniform matte background, and we've got some hex keys in here. I used Grok to create this prompt, and so Grok was kind enough to give us kind of a range of gray in this hex color palette here. So it's going to create our image for us, and right now we have we've put in the path to our images. I have a folder here. So inside of this episode, right, we've got our reference images. These are the ones that we created, right? The main Allison one and the upscales. And then we've got anchor images, which we're not dealing with those yet. We're going to do base images. And then we have where we want our base images to land. And this right here is the path for, this is a base, and the name of the file will be video or vid. And this is a path for images. And let me tell you guys what's going on over here. This is one of my favorite things about this process. I use this when I create Instagram images too. I'm going to do a whole video on that, a remake of an old video that I did. But here's what happens. So this is a 5-second video. That's what we're going to create. And what we want to do is, instead of just creating a video and then having to go in later and, you know, use a video editing program to pull out stills or something like that, we can grab stills along the way. And we do that with this node here that's called Select Every Nth Image. This is part of the VHS nodes pack. So whenever you guys get this and you have to go and download your custom nodes, VHS will be one of them. VHS stands for Video Helper Suite. And what we've got going on here is we can say select every nth. And what that means is select every nth frame. And so I want to walk you guys through kind of how this is set up. So I sort of skipped this step, but I'll come back to tell you. We are, where does it tell me the frame rate? Yeah, here we go. So our frame rate is up here, and we're going to create this video in 16 frames per second. With one, you create 5-second videos. 16 times 5 is 80. And so we're going to create an 80 frame video that's going to be output in 16 frames per second. 80 divided by 16 is 5. We have a 5-second video. Down here, we put the length. This is what drives the length of your video. If we were to subtract 16 from here, we would get a 4-second video instead of a 5-second video. Why is there a 1? Why is it not just 80? I've often wondered this, and I saw somebody describe this the other day. It was really the best way I've heard why you need that extra 1 there. When you start, you have to start with something. You can't start with 0, so you have to start on frame 1. So really, it's frame 1 plus 80 frames instead of 0 plus 80 frames. So that's why you have to start with that 1. So this is what's going to happen. Up here, I have select every nth frame, and we're doing 16 frames per second. So what that means is for every 1 second, I want to select, or I want to capture 2 images, right? So every 1/2 second, or every 8 frames, I want to capture 2 images. But I want to skip the first 16. Why? Well, because I already have that image here. Right? This is what the very first second is going to look like, and I don't need a duplicate image of that. So what I want to do is on 0 to 1 seconds, the first 16 frames, I want no images. From 1 seconds to 2 seconds, we're going 16 more frames. So now we have 32 total frames. I want to collect 2 images from that. And then from seconds 2 to 3, 16 more, and I want to collect 2 images from that, and so on. So I'm going to get 2, 4, 6, 8 images from this, plus my original image, right? So there's 9. So we'll just call it 8, and for the sake of confusion, or not being confused rather. So I'll have 8 images as a result, meaning one of these images may be perfect. All I'm trying to do is get one good reference image with a gray background that then I can use to build off of. And what I'm doing here is I'm creating 8. So, we told it in the prompt, we said, hey, in the first, 1/2 to 1 second, shift to a pure solid medium gray, neutral gray color. we're asking it over here, you know, don't give me anything for the first second, but after the first second, between seconds 1 and 2, let's collect 2 images. So at the end of the day, and it'll make more sense when I run it, but at the end of the day, we're going to have a bunch of images to choose from, and we just need one good one. And then what we'll do is we'll take one good gray one, and we'll take this one good one with flowers, and then we'll start running through these prompts to get our base images, and then we'll use those base images to get our anchor images. So without further ado, we've got our prompt loaded, we've got our models loaded, everything looks good. We have our file path set. This is a big one, guys. I do this all the time. I'll forget to put the file path. I'll run something, and then I'll have to go and copy it from the folder that I put it in. So as a practice, just, you know, it's good to do kind of a good once over before you hit run. For something like this, it's not that big of a deal, but what if you were running a batch process of, you know, 100 images or something? You wouldn't want them to all go to the wrong place. So we're going to run this. I'm actually going to, I know that Juan can make mistakes. Any diffusion model can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this 4 times just to, you know, hopefully go through. Again, we're really only looking for one image, and maybe we nail it on the first try, but I'm going to run it for 4 times and let it run. We'll be back in just a few minutes, and hopefully we'll have one good gray image that we can use. So here we go. So it looks like our images have finished. Let's take a peek here. I did notice that some of them had a better background than the others. Look, we get some shading here. This is not too bad, although when I hover over it, it lightens up. Let's see here. We'll go take a look at the actual images that we got. I did notice that some of the first ones looked pretty good. That very first batch that it ran, we got some gray ones over here. But did you notice that, you know, in some of these, like this, for example, it's almost like it tried to make it gray, but it couldn't. So, you know, I had mentioned earlier that Juan can make mistakes. It absolutely can. So let's see if any of these are good enough. Notice the lighting change. This one right here is great. When we upscale this, it's going to look just as good as the other one. We've got a relatively neutral background. Number 6. So I'll tell you what, we'll keep looking just to make sure that there's not a better one. 7, you know what, any of these are good. Actually, her eyes look better in 7. Let's just take a peek. Oh, this one looks good too, 17. I think you guys are starting to get the point, right? So the idea is we're going to use Juan to really keep our character as consistent as we can, but drive different visuals that we want. So in this example, we're changing the background. In a minute, we're going to use these images, and we're going to change the position or the pose of Allison. Okay, it's kind of hard to pick. I'll tell you what, and this is a little fuzzy, but again, remember, we're going to upscale these after we're finished. So I think that what we're going to do is we are going to, let's go with this one right here. 17 is great. So let's just call this Allison Gray. We're going to copy this. We're going to take it over to our reference images. And now we've got 2. So we've got our main Allison reference image and our Allison Gray reference image. Now we're going to take these and we're going to do something similar to what we just did. We're going to run them through Juan, and we're going to have her do different movements so we can capture some images along the way. And then that will help us build out our base images. So, or I said movements, actually, let me back up. First, we're going to do the zoom in and zoom out to get all of our base images. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do different poses with those base images. And we'll have way more than the 20 that we need, but the idea is that we have a really good 20 to choose from. So we'll hop into that next. I can come back over here into these base images. I don't need any of this anymore. I really just did it for, I'll tell you what, let's save it just in case. That's something that I am notorious for doing, which is just go ahead and delete everything, and then I have to go and find it later. So let's say old base images. just so we keep them. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we have got our gray image. We can still use this same image here of Allison, and we're shooting for a close-up, and we're shooting for the zoomed out version. Remember, like I said, there are other ways to do this. I personally like Juan. You guys might see that, as you know, Juan has some creative freedom. So as this zooms out, maybe she smiles differently. Maybe her eyes go to a different position. Maybe she winks. A lot of times if you do things like an angle changer and you just zoom in and zoom out, it's the exact same image. And so earlier I had told you there are some reasons why I really love Juan. One of them is that because Juan, the model itself, is creative, as we have the video sort of go through these motions over here in these prompts, we may capture a really cool image that we never expected to get that would be perfect for our LoRA. I've had that happen a lot, actually. And so it's another reason why I like this. It takes longer. You've got to do all these prompts, and you run it through video, but again, it's a neat experience to be able to do it this way. You learn some really good tools and tricks, and so you can get some stuff that you didn't expect that you were going to get. And I bet that in all the images that we create today, we're going to get some kind of cool stuff. So let's do the zoom in prompt first. I'm just going to copy this here. We'll take it over here. I didn't really talk about the negative prompt. This negative prompt is the default negative prompt that comes with this template from Comfy UI. So this prompt right here, I don't really know what it is. I would assume that it's Chinese. I'm not really sure. I say that because I think Alibaba, the maker of One, is Chinese. And so maybe these are characters that make sense to the developers of this model. I'm not 100% sure, but I can tell you that anytime that I use this standard in a censored, safe for work format, it seems to work pretty well. So I usually just leave it. If you wanted to wipe this out and put English in there, you would put things like, in a negative prompt, you want to put the things that you don't want to happen. So you would put things like blurry, low resolution, extra fingers. I would imagine that that's what we have going on in here now. So I'm going to leave this, and I recommend that you guys do as well. But if you started to have an issue, you can always just, can add English after it. It's smart enough to understand what language that you're talking about. So we have this queued up. And let's just take a peek here at this before we, see, this is from a different prompt that I had before. This is from the old video. So we're going to take this out, and we're just going to put a young woman stands quietly. The camera begins immediate shot, slowly to zoom into her face. Her head remains level. Camera movement smooth and controlled. No pose change. Yes. Okay, this is great. So what I wanted to do is just make sure that we didn't reference, if you reference a different outfit, that said she had on a white dress, Juan may try and change her clothes, and we don't want it to do that at all. So we want it to be roughly the same image, just a close-up. So I'm going to run this one time. And we're trying to really get two images. We're trying to get one that's kind of upper torso and head, and then a close-up face. So let's run this and see what we get. Okay, so that run is finished. Let's do this real quick. Let's take a look. We haven't really talked about how long some of these things are taking because I'm just speeding through right in the video so you guys don't have to wait. So that took 216 seconds. So 180 seconds is 3 minutes. This is about 3.5 minutes. That's roughly how long we're waiting for a 5-second video, which isn't too bad. But this is on a 5090. I would think it could go a little bit faster. However, it could also be, I'm starting with a relatively large image. Typically, this wants something like 720p. So it could, I'm sure that the image size has something to do with it. I remember earlier I told you the 4-ish K image was taking way, way too long. So just really to give you guys a heads up, really more to set expectations than anything else. 3.5 minutes is not that big of a deal at all. But again, if you're on a gosh, a 50-70 or, you know, even a 50-80, it may take a little bit longer. So just, you know, kind of factor that into your workflow. Okay, so let's see it's actually easier if we do this. We can take a look at those images in a second, but here's what we've got. So this zooms in, and that is a great image right there. So good. I would say that we could use something like that. Any of these right here. Look how good that is. It looks very realistic. The lighting is good. Yeah, this looks really, really good. Okay, so this would be like this image here, or even this image here probably. And so let's see. We didn't get a super close up of her face. Well, you know what, guys, this is a really good one too. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it one more time. I'm going to prompt it to get a little bit closer to her face. But to be honest, for the, you know, waist up to full face base images, our starting image is good. Any of these images right here is good, or good rather. And then this image is great for a close up. We're going to do it one more time just to be on the safe side. See if we can get anything else. Let me see here. Smooth and controlled. Really what I want to close up. Well, it says transitioning to a tight close up. Let's just say ultra. Juan seems to understand what ultra is. Actually, we can even say very. Begins a medium shot, and let's take out slowly and puts in quickly. You know, with 5 seconds, if it's moving slowly, we may just not be giving it enough time to zoom in. So that's just a quick tweak that we can do. We're going to run this one more time. We'll give it just a hot minute. Even if it doesn't get closer, this is absolutely fine for that image. And honestly, I don't even know that I want one closer. I really, just because I have you guys here and we're playing around with this, I want to see if we can tighten it up just a smidge. So let's run it and see what we get. Okay, well, let's see. It looks like it did just about the same close up as it did last time. So no big deal. Like I said, I don't know that we would get any closer than this for training a LoRA. I really just wanted to see if I could get it to pull in closer. So no big deal. We have got definitely the right variation of images for this image right here, this very first reference image. Now here's what I want to do. Because I already have my prompt loaded, I actually want to go back and do the same thing for the gray background image for Allison Gray. So we're just going to execute the exact same prompt for our Allison Gray image. And we just want to get this, you know, the same similar type of depth with that gray background. So as we sort of choose our base images, we have a little bit of variety, some gray and some not gray. And so we need to do the same thing, right, on the gray background. So here we go. Okay, so we have our first pass, and it's zooming in. Still have that smile on the face. And this one got very tight. This one got tighter than the other one. Wow. Yeah, maybe not that last one, but look at that. This image right here, that's really good. So let's see, what do we have? We've got this image as a start. That's a good one right there. So, yeah, I'd say that that's okay for kind of that, you know, torso portrait up. And then any of these are good for her face. Any of these right here. This is great, guys. Okay, so well done. Now we're okay with these images. Now we need to do the same thing, but we need to do the pullback. Juan doesn't like to show feet. So, and I'm not exactly sure why. It just has a hard time going from an image like this to a full zoomed out, you know, full body background. I don't really understand why, but it does. And I've tried, you know, hundreds of different prompts. It'll do it, but sometimes it just takes, you know, a lot of tries. But that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take this image now, and we need to get her to where it zooms out. So I want to, you know what, let's do this. Let's copy this because we had to change it because it had some of the old language in there. And we'll bring this over here and paste it. Right. Okay, and I don't have to do that. I can do this. We'll copy this out. We'll come over here and we'll paste this in. And we need to, we can just say she stands still. Body remains relaxed and upright. Camera, let's say, quickly pulls backwards. Smoothly zooming out to reveal head to, and let's have her in bare feet. She maintains cultural expression. Okay, spatial depth. Warm late afternoon sunlight from the camera left. That's okay. Let me see where's the lighting in here. The lighting's really on the right. How about we just, let's take this out. Include her full figure and more of the surrounding. She's not in flowers and meadows, so let's just say more of the surrounding. Horizon remains stable and level. Realistic spatial depth. Warm late afternoon illuminates her from the side. Notice I'm trying to make it generic, so when we get the other image in here, this applies to both of them. What this means is we're allowing Juan to get creative. When we say side here and don't say camera left or camera right, Juan gets to decide what it wants to do here. So again, sometimes you get some really cool stuff when you do that. Highlights around her hair. No pose changes. Okay. Bare feet. I think that this is good. So here's what we're going to do. I am going to go ahead and I'm not going to hop back on in between these. I'm going to go ahead and get these done. This image and the next image, and get it as zoomed out as I can. And then we'll move to the next step where we have her sort of turn right or left. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate all the images. I won't have you guys wait for all that, but I'll generate all the images so I get to the end and we can see the output. Because we need to actually change her outfit too, which we'll do here in just a few minutes. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and run this and we'll see if we can get a full body shot. Okay. So we have gone through 2 iterations, and both of these actually turned out about as good as I could expect. You notice the farther away you get, the less detail you get, although this is kind of nice here with the blur, and it sort of keeps her plane focused and then blur, in the background. Not bad at all. I would probably say, maybe something like this, because we've got her knees that we would use for full body. Why do you need full body, right? The reason is that you want, for your LoRA, we're driving for consistency, clearly. And so when you have a full body LoRA, when you're creating full body images, you really want that consistency. So I would ask, how important is it that from her knees down remain extremely consistent? Do you know what I mean? From the knees down, especially in jeans or whatever, it's just not super critical to have images like this versus images like this as an example. Now, let's say that it was very important that you had feet, right? A lot of people want to make sure that they can create really good feet. Well, you would create a separate LoRA just for that. You create a foot LoRA, and then you would apply that foot LoRA to your character LoRA to make sure that you had consistent feet. So, by not getting a fully perfect, full body, 100%, all the time image, this doesn't mean that we can't create good full body images. It just means that, we're going to train on, and I'm moving past here because I like her face here with the eyes open. It would be, let's see. Probably like this image right here, this image right here, or this image right here. We're just trying to say, hey, when we train our LoRA, we have enough of the body in there to drive consistency. So when we use that LoRA to create our Allison later, that it's consistent across the board. That's it. So what we have done so far is fantastic. Now we still have, our girl in both images, but she's wearing the same outfit. And we need to change that outfit. So let's do this. First, let's go solidify our base images. Let's pick 4. And then let's change the outfit in a couple of them. So we have 2 different outfits across 2 different backgrounds across 4 different poses, and then images rather, depths, right? Close up, sort of medium, torso, and then half body, and then full body. And then let's take all of that, the combination of those that we've created. So couple backgrounds, couple outfits, and our 4 different distances. And let's use those to create different poses. And then from there, we'll have our anchor images. So what that means is we need to go and select our 4 base images from what we've got here, okay? Now, we have 2 really good reference images, and those reference images count as our base images, right? Or one of them could count as our base image. So here's what I want to do. The first thing that I want to do is I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it best base. Okay, and then I'm going to open this up in a separate window. Nope. I'm going to open this up in a new window. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to select the best ones. It's easier if you do it this way. The best ones, and then we'll say that those are our base images. So I'm just going to go through them quickly. Let's see here. And really what we'll do is we'll get more over here, and then we'll narrow it down. So we're just picking the best of the best. I think this image right here is great. I think this image is great. Those are similar. Okay. I really like this. This is essentially our reference image. Oh, that's a good picture. Okay, we'll pull that one over there for a close-up. I like this one for full body. Did you notice that we've got this, it's really not going to matter. We're really just looking for a solid background, but did you notice that we've got these trees on the side? I don't know why. Again, Juan is creative, so it will do that sometimes. Okay, so we'll grab, I like this one. This is also, pretty much just a reference image, so we can start with that. Her eyes closed. Oop, we moved into the videos. Okay, hang on, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna use that other one, but we'll drag this one over here just in case. Okay, so let's see what we've got already. We've got a close-up, a sort of portrait, waist up, another close-up, more close-up. We've got a full body. We can kind of call we'll call this waist up, and then another full body. Are we missing anything? It seems like we should have a good one in the flowers. No, that's this one right here. Yeah, okay. So here we have enough to say that we have our anchor images. Let me just go back through these one more time. Let's do this. Start at the beginning. See, I really like this waist up image too, more so than this one. So we'll pull that one in there. And this is almost, yeah, those are the same. Guys, one of the reasons why I'm so picky about these is that these are our base images that we're going to use for everything, right? So we're going to use these to build everything else. So it's super important that these are in good shape. think that we're okay. What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we have 8 over here and we need 4. I can nitpick these to death if we're not careful. So let's just go ahead and solidify on our 4. So we need some gray backgrounds. This one's really good. That's great. Okay. So let's call this waist up. And we'll say gray. And which one is the best close up between these two? I like this one the best. So let's say close up. I don't know, field, just so we flag it. Okay. And now we've got waist up, close up. We need a full body. So of these two, do we like this one or this one? It's tough. I actually think I like this one better. So that is this one. Let's call it full field. Isn't that what we call it? Yeah. Okay, and then we just have to decide, we've got waist up, we've got full, and then we need kind of the torso one. And kind of leaning towards this, but you know what? It seems like we would want a gray for that. So let's do this. Let's put this one, this one, this one, and this one. Oh, shucks. Let's try that again. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Let's get these back over in here. Okay. And then we need a I don't think I copied one of the wrong ones over. There we go, full field. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now I need waist up, sort of a torso in a gray. And it doesn't have to be in a gray. I'm trying to be a little, not symmetrical, even, I guess, with this. Let's see, that's almost the same one. You know, we don't really have one that's kind of torso. So I'll tell you what, it doesn't have to be gray, just to prove a point. Oh, well, I think this one's great, actually. Let's do that. So we'll say portrait field. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. We have all of these best base images, right? And now what we're going to do, this is our base. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to recreate all of these, but we're going to do it and we're going to change the outfit. And you'll notice that we're going to try to change the outfit. I'm not sure what we'll do yet, probably like a pink sweater or something, but we'll try and change the outfit, and you'll notice we'll go through several iterations and it won't be exactly the same. It doesn't really matter. The point is that we want to try to get close, to where the top of her outfit matches, as we develop, our data set out a little bit. So I'll tell you what, give me a second, because I've got to go get another workflow set up and ready to go. We will hop over into what we call the AI Hub photo editor, where we're going to change her clothes, and I'll teach you guys how to do that. And then we'll get back into it here in just a second. So now that we have our base images, and I went ahead and copied over just the two reference images as well, in case we want to go ahead and use those later. Again, when we're creating data set images, there's no reason not to go ahead and, do whatever you're going to do with, it's a better way to say that. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So if we go ahead and do a couple things with these images, and then we end up finding out later, oh gosh, you know what? I'm glad I did that, because, I really like this outfit on her as an example. It's best to do that now than to get down the line and, you know, you've got 18 images and you really need 2 more and you've got to go backtrack, right? So we've got these 6 images here are in our base. We've got the 4 base images that we just worked through, and then we've got these 2 images. I have what I call the AI Hub photo editor, and this is a workflow that I created for communities of or community members rather of AI Hub. And in here, what we've got is we've got 2 different sections. I'm not going to go through this in a tremendous amount of detail because I've already done another video specific to this workflow right here. But I do just want to go ahead and call out that we've got 2 sides to it. This side's for inpainting. This side is using reference images to, to change backgrounds and poses and outfits and things like that. For this video, we're going to use Inpainting to change her outfit. What I want to do is I want her to have a a pink sweater and jeans. And so I'm going to show you guys how we do Inpainting to try to make that happen. I will tell you that we are using Quinn Image Edit for this. Quinn Image Edit, and I'm sorry, I should have told you, but for anyone who watches this video, if you just hop into Discord, this workflow will be available as well. Quinn Image Edit is a very powerful and amazing. It's one of my favorite diffusion models that's out there. It allows you to it's almost like Photoshop in what you can do with it. So we're going to mask out her outfit and we're going to write a prompt over here to change it. Like you can see earlier, I was playing around with a neutral gray. We're going to write a prompt to change it. And then we're going to let Quinn put the outfit on her for us. So the first thing that we're going to do to make that happen is we're going to right click in here and we're looking for Open in Mask Editor. So if I click that, it's going to open this up and it's going to allow me to edit this photograph. So what I want to do is I'm going to, you can see my little mask tool here. It's kind of small and I want to make it just a little bit bigger. So this is easier. There we go. And so actually there we go. And so what I want to do is I want to leave her skin in the background the same, but I just want to grab her clothes. So if I take this and apply a mask, kind of get down here. It does not have to be perfect. You can sort of go over the edge a little bit. There we go. Okay, and then let's make this smaller. Let's get some of these areas up here. There we go. Now Quinn will only touch the part that's masked. So if there's something that isn't right, in here, we may have to come back and touch up the mask. But we're trying to give Quinn room to play with. And let me get down here. And let's mask this out. And then we'll do the same thing over here. So with my mouse, I'm just holding and dragging. But look, I got a little too much on her skin right here on her arm. If I right click, it will subtract the mask. So we'll do that to get a little bit back. That looks okay. Okay, let's see what Quinn does. So I'm going to save this. We can see that we've got kind of her outfit masked out. I missed a little spot down there. Let's go in and fix that. It's kind of hard to tell because her pants are black. Okay. There we go. So now what we want to do, just want to be very simple and say, this image is being mapped into image 1. So if we want to reference image 1, we can. I'm just going to say change the character's outfit to jeans and a pink sweater. And that's it. So let's run this and see what Quinn does for us. Okay, let's see what we got. Well, I don't know that it could have done any better on that first try. Wow. These jeans are a little... Notice there's a little piece missing down here. That's unfortunate. The jeans are a little fuzzy, but again, we're going to upscale this. And as you saw earlier, we added a lot of detail to denim when we did that upscale. So I think that this is going to be okay. But guys, look how good this looks. I mean, okay. And looks like we've got a little bit of an issue here. So we can, I think that if we adjust the mask some, that's shadow from this jacket. So I'll tell you what, let's take another stab at it. We're going to fix this little area down here, and we're going to fix kind of the shadow up there. We're just going to give Quinn a little bit more room to play right here. So let's go in, and let's do this. Make it a little smoother. And then down here, I don't really love the way that you have to zoom in and out. Down here, let's just kind of make this one continuous piece. That's what it did with the jeans. Like it kind of left this cut out. I think that it just got confused. So this should be enough. Let's see. Let's try it one more time. And I really don't want you to unload if I have to do it again. So let's just bypass the purge for now. Leave the model loaded. Okay, here we go. Okay. Let's see. Better. The jeans down here look good. Oh gosh. And look. See, it messed up her arms. Well, we can mask out those arms. And see, I was hoping that it would give us, you know, kind of short sleeves. I actually think that it should. But up here, this looks a lot better. You know, and when we train the LoRA, we actually will call out the outfit so it doesn't learn it anyway. But you do want to give it a variety of images so everything isn't the same. So even if you, in your caption, you specify an outfit, it doesn't still learn it. So, but we're getting really close here. I think maybe let's just try and run it again and see if it will give us a different, we're on a random seed. Yeah, okay. So let's see if let's give her another chance, her being Quinn. Yeah, I mean, not too bad. Okay, so let's give her some sleeves. I think that oh, you know what? Maybe we can do this. Let's say a short sleeved. I really don't want to mask out too much of her the actual character, you know, like her arms. I don't want Quinn to have to sort of recreate what her arms look like. So I want to only change the outfit, I guess is the best way to say that. Great. Look, this is really good. We've got still some challenge here with this. So we'll go fix the neck. Or actually, you know what? Let's just try one more time. It's a brighter pink, but I don't know that I really care how bright the pink is. And we've got shading down there. Some of the reasons why we're running through this multiple times has to do with me being a little conservative on the mask. Remember I told you, oops, wrong image. Remember I told you, you know, hey, you don't have to, you can go over the edge a little bit with a mask. I'm trying to keep it super tight, but I think maybe I'm teaching you guys something not to do. So let's give Quinn a little bit more room to play here. Let's give Quinn a little bit more room to play here. And we'll give a little bit more in the neckline. Okay, let's see if that helps. Notice how fast this is running now that I have a purge VRAM node here that sort of wipes everything out after it's finished. But if I disable that and I let it continue to run, the model stays loaded. So it just runs a lot faster because the model stays loaded. And what do we have? Fine. This absolutely works. So we're going to do, I don't know what this kind of V-neck thing is here, but it's great. Arms look okay. Jeans look okay. Her posture's the same. Her arms down here are the same. This is great. Good job. Okay. And remember, we're going to take this into WAN and we're going to change the position anyway. So a lot of her, facial expression and how she's holding herself, that kind of stuff will change too. So now what I'm going to do is I need to do this for the other 5 images. I'm not going to sit here and do this with you guys. I'm just going to do it and get them all masked and changed over. And by the way, the shirts will not look the same in all of them, but it'll probably be close. So just kind of a heads up there. And it's not super relevant that they're exactly the same. Again, remember, we're not training on this shirt, right? We just want a variety of images. So when we give it to AI Toolkit to train, not everything looks exactly the same. So that being said, I'm going to continue to work on this. Give me just a few minutes. And when I get finished, we will have our base images all with a different variety of outfits. Okay, friends, we have gone through and we have now created all of our base images in 2 different outfits and 2 different backgrounds. So now we are in really good shape to be able to start working on our anchor images. And remember, we're just trying today to get a total of about 20 images, right? And we already have 12 here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these, we're going to go and run them through WAN again, all of them. And we're going to run each of them through like a turn right pose and then a turn left pose. And what we're shooting for is just to get a well-rounded group of 20 SFW dataset images that then we could go and train a LoRA with. And I had mentioned that we could create some NSFW. Obviously, I can't do that here on YouTube. But if you wanted to create something that was uncensored, you could do that using some of the techniques that we use today. For example, the technique that we just used where we changed the outfit, you could use that technique in a variety of ways, right? To drive any type of content that you wanted to create. That's up to you. So what we've got here is we've got these images. Now we're going to go back over to WAN. I'm going to get it queued up to where we run each of these images through run each of them through the process. I'm going to hook up a batch node that will actually let us run all of these through so we don't have to do it one at a time. I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. And then we'll run it through one prompt, and then we'll run it through another prompt, and then we'll pick our images, and then we'll be done for today. So give me just a second. I'm going to get that set up, and then we'll jump right back in. So we're back in our WAN 2.2 LoRA image generator. And it's time to run each of those images that we just created through each of the different poses. So we're going to do 4 of them. We're going to do 3 of them, turn right, turn left, and turn around. Okay, just to give us a variety of different poses per depth, right, if you will, or distance from our Allison. So, the close-up one, the portrait one, the waist up one, and the, quasi full body one. So how are we going to do that? We don't want to sit here and do one image at a time. It'll take too long. So what I do often is I create I use a batch node to do this. And WAS Node Suite has a really good batch node. Let's do load image batch. There we go. Right here. And so we can take this and we can just simply drag this image over to this start image like that. And behind there, I'll show this to you guys. There's also a get image size, so we need to drag this down here as well. So now we have a load batch image going to our get the width and height right? So we can feed that over here. And then we have our image going to our start image. And now we can just bypass this. We don't need it. So now how do we actually load those images? Well, it's really easy. We're going to go over here, and in Windows, it may be different for you if you're on RunPod or something else, but in Windows, I can just right click and do copy as text. I can come over here and I can paste in the path. I don't want to do a single image. I want to do incremental image. The seed isn't super relevant. Control after generate, we can do randomize. Again, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be driven by the K-sampler. Index is really just 0 because that's where it's going to start. And that's it. So we're ready to go. This thing is going to pull in. Notice we've got this bypassed now. And we need to put our prompt in here. We'll do that in a second. But for as far as images are concerned, this is it. We've got our images in here incrementally. And we've got to get our width and our height of our images, right, as they come in. And then it's going to run through this process just like it did earlier, except we're not going to use one image. We're going to use a batch. The only difference is that we have 12 images in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 2 is 12. And so we want to make sure that when we run it, we run 12 because we want it to run all the way through each of those images. If we were to put 6, it's just going to pick the first 6 that it runs into that folder. Now what we need to do is we need to do our turn right prompt. So let's grab this. We'll do turn right, then later we'll do turn left, and then after that we'll do turn around. There is a way, by the way, to also queue up these prompts, but I don't think we need to do that. Okay, let's just take a quick look at this prompt. Young woman stands in front of the camera. She turns to her right and smiles. Camera steady, hold still and doesn't move. We don't want our camera to zoom in or out. Expanding the frame to include her full figure and the surrounding meadows and flowers. See, this is bad. We don't want that in here. So let's take that out. The horizon remains stable and level. Subject remains center as she moves. Okay, great. So now the prompt is good. Everything's still loaded from the last time we ran it. We've got our batch load here. I'm going to zoom out so we can sort of watch this whole thing take place. It's going to create the videos. It's going to create the images just like last time. Nothing's changed except now we're changing the pose for our base images, our 12 base images. And we had talked earlier about only having, 4, maybe 5 of these. The reason why I want to go ahead and run this on all of these is because, guys, to be honest, these images really turned out great. They turned out very, very, a little better than I expected, honestly. The changing of the clothes was great. I'm really happy with this data set today. Just by using, a few simple techniques, right? And using WAN and using some of the Quinn Inpainting that we did. So I want to go ahead and run all of these through because I think we may actually get some really cool images that we can use in our bigger data set later. So this step is going to take a little bit longer because we're doing it on more images, but I think it's going to be worth it because I think we're going to get some stuff that, that may save us some time down the road. So spend the time now, save it down the road. That's kind of the, better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it motto that I was telling you guys about earlier. So all that being said, we are ready to execute. I'm going to hit run. We're going to run through 12 of these. Each of these takes, if you remember, I think 2.5 or 3 minutes. So this one run is going to take about 30 minutes. I'm going to let it run. I'm going to record it. It'll be super fast for you guys. But for me, I'm going to let it run. I'll step away and I'll be back in about 30 minutes. All right, and we're finished. We've finished our 3 runs. And just a quick review what we did. So let me just minimize this. I moved some files around. That's why that video is not there anymore. So we did our 3 prompts. We did our turn right, our turn left, and our turn around. And so The last one gave us some images like this, where she's kind of turning around. These are some kind of cute pictures. One of the reasons why we did these is really just, again, to give us that variety. So if we take a look at the anchor image output, which is the result of all of the images that we just created. I have already created a videos folder. Remember, we create videos here and images here, and we don't need those videos. We really just want the images, but I don't want to get rid of the videos. So we created a videos folder here. I'm in my anchor images. So just again, to kind of recap, we've got the reference images, which were the first ones that we created. Remember, we upscaled these two, and we created the normal one, and then we did the gray one. And where'd I go? Let me hop up one. And then we created our base images. So our best base images here are the 12. And I have already copied these 12 best base images over into our best anchors folder. Okay. What we want to do is we want to go through and we want to take all the anchor images that we've created, and we want to pick the best ones out and put them in here, just like we did earlier. However, because these base images are so good, I want to make sure that we include those as part of our anchor image selection. So now I'm going to go back. I'm going to look at the anchor images. These are all of the ones that we just created. Okay, and we have, let's see how many we have. We have 315 of them. And so the point I was trying to make by having, using this process and having so many of these is, imagine if we were to try to create each of these images one at a time. It would take forever. And so having the ability to use one and grab images along the way, every time we do a run, we get 9 images, right? Or technically we get kind of like the start image and then 8 more, but we get those 9. And it creates some really good images. And like I said, look at these images as her head kind of turns. You get all of these different shots along the way, and you never really know what you're going to get. Sometimes you get some really good stuff. I mean, look at this image, this kind of shy glance away from the camera. This is difficult to do with a prompt, but if we have her make that motion through a video and then grab those images along the way, you just get some really cool stuff. So here's what we've got. We've got 315 images that we need to review. We need a total of 20. In our best anchors, we already have 12 here. Whether or not we use these 12, we don't know yet. But what I think we need to do is, I think that we need to go back through all of these images very quickly. This will be a fast process. We need to go through all these images and just pick the absolute best of the best. My guess is that we'll pick somewhere around 20, maybe 25, and we're going to put them in this best anchors folder. Then we'll take a look at these best anchors and we'll delete or remove everything we need to get down to 20. And that'll be a little bit of a challenge. I'll just tell you, I've done this a time or two, and you usually end up with some images that you really don't want to get rid of. But it's okay, because today we're only creating our core 20. And if you have more than 20, it's okay. 21, 22, 25 even. It's not the end of the world if you have that many. It's just, we kind of have a process, and we're trying to stick to the process, right? However, that doesn't mean that we can't use some of these images later when we go to expand our data set and do, kind of the bigger data set of 100. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this, I'm going to open it in a new window. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to do what I did before very, very quickly. And I'm going to grab the best images that I see. If I see something that really just jumps out at me, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drag it over here. But you see, look at this image right here. It's pretty much the same image as this. So we got to be careful, because otherwise we'll just, create a problem over here and have too many to choose from. So really, I'm just going to go through this quickly and look for some of the absolute best images. This one looks really good. It's a close-up. It's similar to that one. It's actually almost exactly like that portrait. So I'll tell you what, let's take this one and put it. Didn't mean to do that. Tell you what, let me reset. Okay, we were here. Okay, let's do over. Let's go through here. Oh wow, that's a good one. Do we have anything that close? We don't. That's a really good close-up of her face. Okay. Do we have any with kind of the shorts look? I like this one. We'll bring that one over. The lighting in that one's good. Okay, a lot of these we looked at already. See, I would like something like this, but it's blurry. So we just want to be careful. Eyes are clipped. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a really good one. Okay, we'll pull this one over. Did I miss anything? So these are going to be in order. Notice that she's looking to her left here. Oh, look, she's walking in this one. Interesting. Yeah, not a fan. Okay. It's a little blurry. Is this one the same as this? Yeah, pretty much. Oh, I like this one. Okay, we'll drag that one over. Got a side profile there so we can see a little bit about her. Oh, that's a good picture. Yeah, it's a lot like that one. Okay. Wow, these pictures really turned out great. I kind of like this one of her sort of gazing off into the distance. What a pretty smile she's got. Wow, look at that. Okay. I don't even really remember if this was... I think this was Flux Klein. I can't remember if this was... I'll have to go back and look. Oh, that's a good one, guys. Okay. That's kind of like a more zoomed in version of this. Okay, so now we've started the other turn. Let's see what else we get with her turn in that direction. I like this one. It may not be high enough quality. Remember, we're going to run these through the upscaler. Okay. Yeah, we don't need too many close-ups like that, but that was a good picture. Some of these pictures, I can already tell you now, we can use later when we build out the bigger data set, because I'm passing some of these that are really good. Here's another really good one of her looking to her right. Yeah, it's that now, so you can see right here. This is one of the problems sometimes that we have with WAN, is that because it's in motion, you'll get a little bit of a blur. So unfortunately, we can't use that one. But see, like these are super clear. That one is actually not bad. I like this one. Okay, we'll bring that one over. Okay, cute. Now let's see. Oh, you know what? I actually like this. Well, we'll choose again. Those are both cute. I wonder why she's walking in these. It's just WAN being WAN. Yeah, those are too blurry. Okay, so we're on 265, and I don't remember, it was 315. Oh, that's a really good one. Okay, and yep, that's good. Oh, well, they're pretty much the same. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Little blurry, but I think we can upscale that. That's a potential. That may be a little too... Well, looks like Juan, unfortunately, turned her head around maybe a little too much. That is usable, but I just don't like it. I don't like the way the sun is in her hair on that one. Oh, this is great. Good picture right there. Not dissimilar to this one over here. Okay. Also good, but with the gray background. And that's it. We hit the end. Okay, so we have 27 images in here. I think I said that, you know, maybe we get to re-add another 20 on the 12, which would have taken us to 32, but we're at 27. So not bad. I think we did a good job. There were a lot more pictures I could have pulled in here. So before we, you know, sort of look more closely at these, let's just kind of look at them zoomed out a little bit like this, because what you want is you want an even smattering of images, if that makes sense. So you don't want too many grays. You don't want too many flowers. You don't want too many of one outfit. You don't want too many of another. You don't want too many close. You don't want too many far. You want a very balanced, well-rounded data set for these first 20. And so really what I'm going to do while I have this, you know, sort of like this, is I'm going to go through and I'm going to delete ones that are very close to each other. As an example, these two are very close, 6 and 8. So there's 6, there's 8. I like 6 better, so let's delete 8. By the way, we copied these over, so we're not really deleting it. We still have it. And now we're down to 26. We're shooting for 20. Let me see here. These two, you know what? Let's keep both of those. Those are our reference images. Okay. Okay, this one and this one are both kind of turning left. Let's see here. I like that. And I like this one because it's a tough call. How many big smiling faces do we have like that? See, here's another one. I think we get rid of this one and we keep that one. Okay. Now we're at 25, so we need to get rid of 5 more. This one, no, we're gonna keep that one. See what I mean, guys? It's tough. Okay, we have one here and one here with her looking that same direction. This one's okay. This one's okay. .310 and 168. I kind of like 168 better, so we'll get rid of 310. Okay, just a few more. These two are very similar, so oops. You know, this is one I wish I could actually ask you guys what you think. I think we keep 221 and we get rid of 224. These two are very similar. Yeah, we're going to opt to keep that one, so we'll get rid of this one. Okay, how close are we? We need to get rid of 2 more. These two are similar. But they have different backgrounds. Let me just... This one and this one are relatively similar. So, 61... Actually, let me do this before I make a mistake. Okay, so 61 and our other anchor. I think we keep waist up gray. And we get rid of 61 for now. I still feel like we have pretty even gray and flower mix. We've got relatively even pink outfit and blue outfit, so we're still doing okay. Let's find one more to get rid of. If I have to get rid of one, which one just really jumps out at me? Okay, this one and this one are almost the exact same thing. It's just a different outfit. So, how many pinks do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which means we've got one extra in the blue. Is there a blue that we can get rid of? Okay. This portrait, you know what? I actually just don't like this smile. Okay, we're going to get rid of that one. You can see here we're down to 20. These are our 20. We've got our 2 reference images. We've got several of our core images, plus some of the images of her, you know, turning around and looking different ways. Here's a few. She's all kind of looking the same direction, but here's one she's looking right. Here's one she's looking right. Here's one she's turned around. Guys, I think these are good. I think that we 100% could use this for a data set. So now here's what we're going to do. We have best anchors. Now what we need to do is we need to, let me see. Let's create one more folder and call this best anchor. Best anchor upscale. Now what we need to do is we need to run all of these images through SeedVR and upscale them. And then once we do that, we'll be finished. We will have our final anchor data set that we set out to create today. Very exciting. So I'm going to come over here to SeedVR. I showed you that we already created this batch. What we need to do is, unlike earlier where I made the mistake of not putting in the file path, let's go ahead and get that fixed. So here we want to put these in, best anchor upscale. Let's call these Allison anchor upscale. So here's my file path. It's going to go in the best anchors, best anchor upscale. The path is so long it's hard to read. And then Allison anchor upscale will be the name of the images. So that'll be our data set. We could call it anything we want, but Allison anchor upscale is accurate for what it is. Now we need to grab the file path and put it here of where the images live. So we're going to do, oops. Yes, I understand. We're going to do copy address as text, and we're going to come over here and we're going to put that in. And let me just take a peek. Sort method sequential is fine. We've got this mapped over here. Okay, now this might take a few minutes because we're going to upscale 20 images. I'm going to run this. I assume this needs to be 20. I've never used this node before, but I think it does. So we've got 20 images. We're going to run through here. We want it to, the sort method is sequential. So it's just going to kind of go through an order of the file name in there. And it's going to go and it's going to upscale it just like it did before. And then it's going to save each of these. We'll watch it. I'll speed through it for you guys, but we'll go ahead and do it. We'll watch 1 or 2 of them, and then we'll take a look at our final product, and then we'll wrap it up. So with one minor triage event where we had to fix this node up here, the other node that we had wasn't working for some reason. It looked like it had an issue with the alpha passing it through, but we changed it over to the WAS node suite, the same batch node that we used over here. And so we made it through. We got everything upscaled. We've got some really good looking images here. It's just so impressed with this upscaler for it being free, you know. But we got some really good images here. And now the only thing that's left is for us to just kind of recap, talk about where we are, talk a little bit about what we did today, and talk about next steps. So let's do that now. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging in there with me. It has been a long day. I did all of this video sort of in one day, and it has taken about 12 hours just overall to record all of the footage that will probably end up being, I'm going to guess, an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm not 100% sure yet because I need to cut it up. But let's just do a quick review, and we'll end this one, and I'll let you guys, go back to your, figuring out how you're going to start putting this stuff together. I hope you're excited because some of this stuff is really cool that we talked about today. I'm hopeful that you guys, learned a lot. That's the most important thing for me. But let's just do a quick review. So we talked about what a LoRA is, and we pretty much skipped this image because it isn't super relevant for us. We talked a little bit about how the LoRA is kind of like a tugboat, right? How it pulls the main model in this example, ZImage Turbo, it pulls that model in the direction that we want. So it helps us create that character. Now you've seen the dataset images that we set out to create. And so you get kind of a rough idea of how we want it to, pull that character in that direction, right? Or at least what we're hoping that it looks like. So we talked a little bit about that. We came over here, we talked a little bit about the dataset. Today we really focused primarily on these 20. Okay. And like I had mentioned sort of at the beginning of this, we're going to focus on these in episode 3.2. And to get there, we're going to use the Cartesian product concept, right? And so that video will be sort of like how to create these 10,000 images. We won't create 10,000 images in the video. That'll take forever and ever. But we will definitely do a sample and, sort of create some number of images using the Cartesian product. So we talked a little bit about that. We came over here and we talked about, what, a Cartesian product makeup might look like. It doesn't have to be 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. It can be, something like this. Then we came over here. We, went and selected our reference image. We customized that reference image, and we have not built out our story yet. I built out our story, but we haven't talked about it yet. We came over here and we looked at this table. I know this is kind of rough, but at the end of the day, we were really shooting for, this is just another view for the big table that we looked at over there. We wanted to get our, I know this says face only. It's 2 times I've done that. We wanted to get our reference image, and we wanted to upscale it, which we did. And then we wanted to use that reference image to create base images. And then we wanted to upscale that. We didn't do that because when we started to use those upscaled images, Juan was just being way too slow. So what we did is we actually went ahead and built out this data set, and then we did the upscale. This has times 18. Technically, we were at 20 exactly. We did a really good job of getting to 20. And so now, I had mentioned when I talked about this earlier that some of this stuff would make a little bit more sense. Now you can see when we were looking at this, where'd we go? Kind of this data set here when I was saying, hey, listen, we need 6 to 9 of this, 6 to 9 of this, 6 to 9 of this. You can see kind of what I was saying, right? We just need a well-rounded approach to our 20 image data set. And I bet you that when we train on this, we're going to get a very good LoRA. I feel really good about this one. But so that's kind of what we were shooting for over here. And now the last thing that I want to talk about is her backstory. So our girl's name is Allison. And what I like to do is I like to create a bio for our girl. And I'll tell you why. If you're going to use this character for any type of social media, when you go out and post for this character, you want to make sure that when you post, you post in a consistent manner. You wouldn't post something to say, like, oh, today was my dad's birthday and it's July 13th. And then in 6 months you post and say, oh, today's my dad's birthday and it's whatever, December 12th. You wouldn't want to do that because it just creates an inconsistent backstory for your character. So what I like to do is I like to build out a full backstory for my character, a bio profile that I can refer to, and to make sure that I have, a consistent story as I build out the life from my character. This is supposed to be fun, and you're supposed to get people to engage with you. And if you have inconsistencies in your story, people might pick up on that, right? And so, if you take a look here, you can see Allison's full name is Allison Marie Ellis, and you can see, kind of when she's born, she's 27, and so on and so forth, right? And you can tweak all this stuff. What I do is I take this and I post this into, this one was named Gwen, actually. But I post it, and actually we should just probably put something like character. But what I do is I take this to ChatGPT. You can take it to Grok or whomever. But you can take this and it will give you this backstory. And then, you can go through here and sort of read this backstory. This is, she grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas, which I just think is kind of interesting that it picked that out. But you can see here that it created this whole backstory. She's got a military base influence and everyday suburban life. And so, listen, if you don't like the backstory, you can obviously tweak it, but once you finalize it, use it. It's there to help you. So I just wanted to, kind of show you guys how I approach that as well. We're creating an online presence. And from my perspective, something that I like to do is just to help bring that presence to life is to build out that story, not build it out along the way, but start with a really good baseline. And of course you can expand this. She's going to meet people. Maybe she gets married. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she gets a new best friend in Hawaii. It doesn't really matter. But the point is that, if you kind of have this baseline foundation, it's really going to help you out. Hey guys, if you watched that whole video, thank you for taking the time. I know it was very long. Hopefully you learned some tips and tricks or some new skills that will help you build your LoRA. Like I told you at the beginning, my process is a little unique, and there are lots of different ways to build a LoRA. So this is just the first one that I ever did. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I thought, I would create a video for you guys. So if you like this, again, please like and subscribe. Also, look down in the comments. There's a link to our Discord. It's free. Come join it. All of my workflows are there. It's all out there for you guys to use. So thanks again, and hope to see you guys in Discord.